she was talking about Michelle Obama's 2022 book that she had listened to called The Light We Carry. And she said, you really need to think about reading it or listen. We do audiobooks a lot. And I said, yeah, I'll get to it. And so I started working out, doing my workouts and stuff. And I noticed Spotify has free audiobooks. And so there was Michelle Obama's book. So I started listening to it. And wow, it triggered so much in my mind because although she was writing it during the pandemic, she writes about navigating fear, reconnecting to identity, and building strength through community. And that triggered the idea of, you know, L&D Cares has really been strongly focused the last year and a half on coaching and mentoring. We have a great mentoring program. We've had about 2,000 people come through our programs since we started in 2020. But I was thinking, how can we build more of a sense of community and connectedness? And what Michelle Obama was talking about in the book, and again, I highly recommend, and if you have Spotify, it's there available for you. I really liked what she was saying, and though a lot of it was kind of in the middle of a global pandemic, it still is quite, quite meaningful for today. So that triggered the idea of this conversation series where we can bring in people such as our guest today, Ben Eden and Michelle, and he will introduce him shortly, but to get more conversation and honest dialogue around some of the things that are impacting us, not just in our profession, but in our personal life as well. So what we hope this series becomes for you is a safe, honest space to explore what it means to lead and live, especially through doubt and uncertainty, anxiety, and loss. And today we're going to focus on the D in dual, which is all about doubt. So anyway, I wanted to give a little bit of context. Thank you so much for being here. I know it's Friday and a lot going on in all of our lives, but thank you for coming, showing up for yourself and for the community. So Michelle, let's begin. Let's kick it off and welcome Ben.
Right. I want to start by saying that near the end of the session, we're going to give you a playbook all about doubt. And we'll have one of these for each of these webinars. And at the end, we'll combine them all and release that one big one as well. But I will give you the PDF in the chat at the end. All right, so I want to introduce Ben. Now, I spoke at SHRM Talent in Nashville back in March, I think. And I kept running into this guy at the restaurant, in the elevator, and over at the conference center. And nicest guy. And then I wandered into his session because it was this big session and there were so many people in there. And it was just in this open space, but the chairs were filled, everybody's standing. There's just so many people. And I got to hear the last 3/4 of it. And I was so affected by it. So when Brandon suggested this series, the first thing I said was, we've got to get Ben. So just a little on his bio. Ben is a visionary keynote speaker. He's a leadership consultant, and he has the Eden model, his own model, which helps high-achieving leaders align with their identity, lead with clarity, and experience deep fulfillment. And he's a SHRM CP, and is it MCP? And so he knows what we do in talent development. He empowers business owners and corporate leaders to redefine success. And he has a book, which is now on my Kindle, called How We See Ourselves. And he works with leaders around the globe. So I am thrilled, absolutely thrilled to have Ben here at our first session. So Ben, I'll let you start out talking a little about doubt and how it's affected you.
Awesome. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor to be with you and all of you, actually. So I think Don mentioned you're not forced to come on camera, but if you can, I always love seeing who I'm talking to. Otherwise, I hope we do have some engagement in the chat. And before I get into doubt, can I ask you a few questions in the chat? Because I want to see, hey, let's get some lively action here. Because Brandon mentioned we want to have a conversation. I don't plan to just talk this whole time, but we want to have a conversation to make this super valuable. So let's first put in the chat, if you could describe your energy in one word right now, what would you say? And it can be any word, right? It doesn't have to be, oh, let's fake positive. If you're not feeling great today, that's totally fine, right? Put one word that describes your energy coming to this call today. All right, we're seeing good, high, anxious, laid back, anxious, mellow. And that's fair. See, this is great that we're sharing where we are. Because in order to get to where we want to be, we have to acknowledge where we are right now. And starting with that honesty will help us get through things like doubt and things that we're going to talk about today. Oh, lots more coming in. Mellow, curious, tired, smooth, open, okay, curious, medium, high. Love the descriptions. This is good.
I'm
Okay,
kind of
now.
questioning the high.
I didn't know if I wanted to go there, but that's awesome.
I could be altitude.
There we go.
That's what we'll go with. We get to choose our definitions today, don't we? That's great. Thank you, everybody. Now, the next thing is we have different words for doubt. We just learned that one word to describe how we feel, we can see all sorts of words, right? We all define things in different ways. So now let's also put in the chat different words that you have that describe doubt. Words that come to your mind when you think of doubt. Good. So coming through frustration, questioning myself, uncertainty, lack of confidence, questioning, uncertainty, worries, imposter, unknown, anxiety, imposter syndrome. All right. And this is so good just to hear from everybody because we know it's real, but sometimes it just isn't talked about enough, right? It isn't talked about enough, yet everybody lives with it. So then we think we live with it alone and it sucks and I can't tell anybody, and then we just suffer in silence. And that was a big part of my story. Now, before I get into sharing that part of the story that Michelle asked for, I want to share something really that aligns with what Brandon was sharing. I love what they're doing with L&D Cares because the work that we do in L&D and in the world of talent and HR is so, so important. And yet, we know, based on research and lived experience, that HR often spends so much time taking care of everybody else and they do not for themselves, right? Now, I discovered this in about 2020, and a business partner and I came together and said, hey, we see this need, so let's create a conference. And we created something called HR Wellbeing Week. And we said, well, if 100 people show up, that'll be cool. Guess what? We had 1,200 people register for that event. And we're doing another one in September, so we'll make sure you're all invited. But we love talking about this and making that impact because you deserve it. You are all so important, and we need to talk about these subjects more often. So, Michelle, back to your point about, hey, the story of how what I was talking about with doubt. So let me relate with everybody, and I'm going to have you put it in the chat again here. We are taught from early on that society teaches us to chase results. Okay, think about it. When you're in school, what results are you supposed to get? Put that in the chat. What results are you supposed to get in school? Good grades, straight A's, high grades, yes. Right? And if you get good grades like A's, what does that mean about you? Put that in the chat. What does it mean about you if you get A's in school? Smart. Yes, I'm smart. Studious, smart, intelligent, good, dedicated, awesome. So a lot of these powerful words that we then associate with ourselves. I get A's, I'm smart. I get A's, I'm intelligent. I get A's, I'm successful. See how that works? But what if you get an F? What does that mean about you? Put that in the chat.
That I'm really bad at gym.
At gym, huh? Okay, there you go. So interesting. Watch these words. So we see failed, failure, 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 flunked, failing. I didn't work to my potential, not for you. So interesting the levels of definitions that we're getting. But the most common that I receive as I do this, I do this on live stages all over the place. And very common, I get the answer that says, I'm a failure. Because I got an F, I'm a failure. But does an F grade actually mean failure? It does not. It means a failing grade. And yet we make it an identity statement that says we are a failure because we got an F. And then our conversation changes, doesn't it? Oh, I'm an F student. I'm not smart. My friend is because he got an A. or they got a B. That's much better than an F, much better than me. And so we start to change our language. And what does that do about how we feel about ourselves in one of the words that we choose, which is doubt?
Mhm.
We very much start to doubt ourselves because of the results that we are getting. And then we tie our identity to those results. And even in the world of L&D, right? If we're succeeding, if our training's going well, if we have the nice title, if people respect us, then we think, hey, I'm successful. This is great. I have very little doubt. But if any of that changes, whether it's a layoff, lack of trust, lack of respect, results aren't there, then how do we feel about ourselves? All of a sudden, we went from a successful L&D practitioner to, oh, I guess I'm not good at this anymore. Or we turn that into a question. Am I good at this? Is this worth it for me? How's that for a taste, Michelle? Is that good to get us started?
Yeah, I love this. And I, for one, really struggle with this. And I was laid off twice in 2 years at this point. And so it's a real struggle. I doubt the rejections are constant, right? And anybody who's been laid off is dealing with this market where the rejections are very constant. And so you really do start to doubt yourself. And so this kind of thing is what I personally need to hear. And I know I'm not the only one in this group who needs to hear it. I notice in our guidebook, you mentioned that a lot of this happens to high achieving people too. It's everybody.
It is. And let me speak particularly to high achievers. Because with high achievers, we are high achieving, right? We like to achieve. We like those A's. We like to produce. We like to get good things. And we often have a history of doing so. When somebody talks about you, you're in your position because you've done well in the past. You were able to figure things out, to put out projects and do well. But something that comes with that, and I want you to put a 1 in the chat if this resonates with you. Okay, put a 1 in the chat if this resonates with you. If you finish a project and immediately you're thinking about what next needs to happen, or you think, oh man, I could have done better at that project, put a 1 in the chat if that applies to you. If you finish a project and you immediately think of the next one, or you think, oh man, I could have done better.
Mhm.
Yeah. I see Alicia puts 4 ones in there. High achiever right there. So, hey, this is real. This is a sign of a high achiever. Now, it's not a bad thing. It's something that we need to acknowledge and understand so that we cannot let it become a weakness. Because here's what's interesting. That high achievingness has brought us to where we are because we are able to do well. Often when people look at us, they say, wow, this person gets A's. This person does very well. This person is successful. They say that about us, and technically our resume and our LinkedIn might say that, but how do we feel about it ourselves? We think, well, I'm still working on the next project that isn't done yet. For sure, I finished that project, and yeah, I could have done better, and now I'm working on something else that's going to be better. So do we feel as successful as people see us? Not very often, right? So this is the key that what I learned, what I teach, and what we're going to talk about today is although maybe our external can say, hey, we are successful, we are confident, if we don't feel that way on the inside, we won't like it. We won't be happy. So we need to learn how to align that with our true identity so that not only can we be successful, but we can feel successful. And there goes the doubt.
A lot of us, and this may be generational, I don't know, but myself included, like a lot of my identity is tied to my work and my job and my title and all of that. And so when I lose that, or I feel like someone is just better at everything than what I do, I start to doubt myself. So how do we deal with that? What aren't we looking at there?
That's a great question. I'm going to share 2 stories to help with that. First of all, I'll share a recent experience, and then I'll share one from when I was younger. Actually, now, as an entrepreneur who teaches this, funny how sometimes we teach what we need to hear, right? I teach this, and yeah, I was experiencing it. Now, thankfully, I've learned something that can be valuable for all of us. As an entrepreneur who wrote a book, owned my own business, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, I'm a leadership consultant, an author, and I consult with many companies, doing very well, okay? Successful, and yet on the inside thinking, oh, I need to do more. And as I was spreading myself out, thinking I need to do this, I can try this, I should be successful at this, and why not this? And when people ask, what do you do? I'm saying, well, I do this, right? Because there was that lack of clarity, guess how I felt? I don't even know who I am or what I do. And there was a ton of doubt. But recently I said, well, instead of doing all this that doesn't feel like it's working, let me just focus on the few things that are or that I want to have work and go deep. And let me tell you, that has made a huge difference. Just over the last 2 weeks, seriously. I went from not being confident in who I was, crazy to hear that, or in what I was doing to all of a sudden, yes, this is what I do and it feels great. And I can focus and be proud of what I'm doing in this moment. So there's one thing that we can do no matter where we are. Now, I realize that in layoffs or change in title or change, that can be scary and maybe a little harder than usual. But there are people who can support, and we can talk through that today. And if you want to bring up a scenario in today in the chat or off mute, happy to talk through it. I'm all about life coaching. But let me share a story from when I was younger too. And this is something that really, let's say, anchored in what I teach and why I wrote my book. So when I was 10 years old, I was in elementary school and we were playing dodgeball in the gym. And I remember being in that gym, realizing that I was starting to be good at something. Okay, we were playing dodgeball. I was throwing that ball against the other team, bam, hit the other person out. Grab the ball again, throw it against the other side, and bam, get the other person out. So I'm feeling good because it feels good to throw the ball and hit somebody and be accurate, right? There's just that feeling that comes. And I was starting to realize that my friends on the sidelines were saying, hey, this guy's awesome. We're going to win this game. And he's on my team. We're going to win. They're all excited saying, yes, we're going to do this. And so in my 10-year-old brain, I'm feeling the excitement physically, saying, oh, this is fun to be active and to be accurate. And then I'm really realizing that my friends are saying, this guy's good. So I'm starting to feel I'm good at something. They like that I'm good at something. And I'm starting to feel proud of myself. I'm starting to feel like I belong. These are important feelings, especially as a 10-year-old. Now, so as I continue to do so, we end up winning the game, and I'm saying, yes, I want to celebrate with those friends of mine. I want to just live in this feeling, bask in this feeling of success, because what I did makes me feel so good, and I want to anchor that in. And I remember leaving gym that day to go back to class, and I saw my friends laughing hysterically about something. So I went up to them, thinking we're going to celebrate together, and wondering why are they laughing. I say, hey guys, what's so funny? And they turn to me and they say, well, raise your arms. I'm thinking, okay, what a weird request, but sure, I want to celebrate with these guys. I want to belong, so I'll raise my arms. And they laughed even harder. And so now I'm going from belonging and successful and excited to thinking, okay, what have I done? Why are they laughing at me? And as I have my arms raised, I look down and I realize that I had extremely sweaty armpits. And you might think, okay, what's the big deal? You just played a game of dodgeball. Of course, everybody sweats. But here I was, a 10-year-old boy, not understanding how the body works. And I must have been sweating a whole lot more than anybody else, because otherwise, why would my friends laugh at me? So when they pointed at me and said, ew, that's gross, ew, that's disgusting, what do you think my brain heard? You can put
You're
that.
not good enough.
Yeah. My brain heard, you are gross, you are disgusting. Therefore, you are not good enough. Why? Because there's something wrong with you. And with that experience came emotions that they do not teach you in elementary school, or at least didn't. Can't speak about today, right? But fear and humiliation and just don't want to be there. Shame, even, because it's like, well, there's something wrong with me. I can't change it. So now I can't be with these people. The feeling of success and belonging, gone, replaced by the fear, shame, embarrassment, and humiliation. Now, I decided I never wanted to feel that way ever again. So I pushed it to the back of my mind and decided I would not tell anybody about that, not even my mom, as a 10-year-old boy. And I carried that experience and those emotions with me for 20 years.
Mhm.
20 years. Now, it turns out I had what's called hyperhidrosis. Has anybody heard of that? Put a 2 in the chat if you have heard of hyperhidrosis. A 2 in the chat if you have heard of hyperhidrosis. What it means is excessive sweating. Some people have it in the hands, some in the feet, some in the underarms. I had it in the underarms, which means I could be at the library and it looks like I ran 3 miles. And people who don't understand can easily make fun of it and say, what is wrong with that guy? What is he doing? Right? And think it's funny. Now, I didn't know I had hyperhidrosis until 20 years later, but this definitely affected me. Why? Because I was a high achiever. And what I had learned in that moment was, hey, wait a minute. I felt good when I was achieving in dodgeball. I felt like I belonged. I loved the feeling of success. I want that feeling back. So,
Mhm.
in order to do so, I started to hide behind a shield of success. As I said, that feels a whole lot better than them getting to know who I really am, quote unquote, right? And finding out that something is wrong with me. So I was good at everything that I did, right? I was a leader, I was a singer, I was talented in sports. Everything that I did, I was successful. Why? Because I liked that feeling. But I never let anybody closer than arm's length behind this shield of success because I did not want them to discover something about that I don't control and that I'm not proud of. Because then why? They would laugh at me, say, you're gross, you're disgusting, and there's something wrong with you. And I didn't want that. But guess what? Here's one more thing about how it affected me. It did with work. Okay? I said, when I was little, my dream was actually to be a professional speaker, a motivational speaker. Because I had grown up listening to a motivational speaker, and I said, I love how this guy makes me feel. I want to do that for others. But as soon as I had this hyperhidrosis story, guess what happened to that dream? Shattered. That cannot happen. You can't be somebody on stage and sweating, and everybody's going to be like, ha ha ha, not listening to you. That's not the world I wanted. Thankfully, though, even though that addressed all of my things, it addressed the sports that I did. I was a swimmer because, hey, you're going to be wet anyway. It addressed how I dated. Imagine trying to put your arm around somebody when you have that going on. And it addressed all sorts of things. That's why I chose my career because I'm like, well, I can be in an office. I don't have to be in an environment where I have to raise my arms lots. So, yeah, I was an HR executive. But then, wrapping up this story, as an HR executive, I started to speak in front of stages. And at first, I was like, kidding. I tried to hide this for 20 years. Why would you make me do this? But I was careful with the clothes that I wore and I was, tried to fake it till I make it kind of thing. And I discovered that, you know what? I like this. I can do it. And hey, nobody's laughed at me so far. And I don't know if I'll share this part of the story, but I definitely went through my personal development journey where I got through this experience of this self-doubt that came through 20 years. I 100% doubted myself. Even though I had the resume of success and people said, Ben, you're the picture perfect life. You have the picture perfect life. You have everything people dream of. I'm like, oh, thank you, but I suffer in silence and I can't tell you about it. But thankfully, I came through it. And as I came through it, I said, wow, if I was a successful professional who suffered in silence, I wonder if anybody else feels that way. And I turned to my professional friends and I said, hey guys, have you ever felt this way? And they said, we all do. The problem is nobody talks about it.
Mhm.
And that's why in February of 2020, good timing, I know, I left my HR executive position to do what I'm doing now, to share this message with the world as a speaker and a coach, and even through my book that says, hey, if you're there, if you're in that doubt right now, I get you. And there are ways to get through it with connection, like L&D Cares is providing, with tools, with stories, with people who do care, even if you've had some situation in the past.
You know, Ben, in the guidebook, I love this sentence. Uncertainty about direction often stems from disconnection, not from goals, but from self. Can you
Yes.
expound on that a little?
Oh, absolutely. Man, this is key to what I talk about, okay? So this example of what I gave. Now, um, let's just try this. Everybody put in the chat something that you are striving for right now. Just some result. Doesn't matter what it is. Just tell me a result that you're striving for. Okay. Yeah, keep them coming. Getting a job I love, successful business of my own, columnist, writing my book. This is important. Boy, could we have another entire session on this? And this is very exciting. Why? Because I get to help people align. This is what we're talking about, Michelle, with your question. If we're not aligned, and what does that mean? You have to be aligned with what? You have to be aligned with who you are.
Mhm.
If you try to find a result that does not align with who you are, it'll lead to dissatisfaction, it'll lead to burnout, and it'll continue to lead to doubt. Why? Because you'll say, well, this is what the gurus taught me to do. This is what the book said I should do. This is what the counselor, the so-and-so, the whatever told me to do. This is the result that said this would make me happy. And it doesn't. If they said it works, but it doesn't work, guess what the problem must be? That's what the brain says. Now, is that true? No. We need to learn to challenge those things. But this is where it comes from. Okay, so let me do this. I'm going to read these comments. Awesome, awesome. Thank you for putting them in. Getting a job, successful business of my own, a job I love, calmness, writing my book, dissertation, finding my next opportunity, independence, getting opportunities for work, finding a role that allows me to live life I want. Okay, a job that allows me to work to my potential, a new opportunity, start my next era, helping family member navigate job loss and uncertainty. Okay, here's the quote that we talked about. Uncertainty about direction often stems from disconnection, not from goals, but from self. Yes. So here's the key. My example that I just gave, say 7 minutes ago about now, where I was going everywhere, you can't align if you're all over the place. And if I just said, you know what? I actually tried this, okay? I watched this webinar and I was super inspired and said, oh, that's the new solution. That said I should write this particular book and put it on Amazon and sell it and make lots of money and it'll become passive income and then I can do my other thing. So I said, great, I can do that. I'll wake up a little early and I'll put that on and I'll get that going and then I'll continue to do my thing. That didn't align. So instead of it being the success and I turned into this person, this thing, instead it became a distraction and something that made me feel out of alignment. It took me from what I was truly good at. So the people who shared in these new opportunities, the jobs you're looking for, even the book, I encourage you, and I don't think we have time to do this today, but it's very, very important that you get clear on exactly what it is that you want. Okay? I know it can be tough. I know. I've been there. But if we can get clear as possible on what we truly want and start going in that direction, you will eventually find it and be happier. It might take a little bit longer, but it'll be a more long-term result. Otherwise, you're chasing things, and yeah, you might get a job, but you won't like it, or you may not like it. So 6 months later, you're back in the same boat. You're just thinking, what's the deal? So instead, here's the change in the question. Okay, I'll share this with you because this might not work on. Can I share my screen? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right, Michelle, can you give me a thumbs up if you see my Eden model here?
Thumbs
Awesome.
up.
Okay, so this is key for everybody here. If there's one thing you take, and this does apply to doubt, okay? If there's one thing you take from today, this is what I hope it is. I know the world teaches you to chase your results, and I asked my question on purpose. What result are you looking for? Because we're used to talking like that. But think about it. If with it, whatever your result was, and I'm just going to choose job because that was the common one, we focus then on behaviors. And we say, what do you got to do? I got to apply, and I got to talk to people, and I got to do this, blah, 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 blah. Then you get lost in the motion. But if you aren't aligned, what happens? Your emotions. How do you feel when you're lost in the motion, but you're not getting a job? Put that in the chat. How are you feeling? You feeling excited? You feeling like, oh yeah, I could do this the rest of my life? No. And when you're feeling that way, keep putting these in the chat. When you're feeling that way, what thoughts do you have? Do you go to Thanksgiving dinner and you say, yeah, I'm living my best life, just applying to jobs, the best thing ever? No, I know I'm making a little light of it, but I'm trying to just not make this heavy, right? And trying to resonate with what's going on because this exists in all of our heads. And yet we don't talk about it. So then what happens? You have these emotions of frustration. This isn't working. What's the deal? And we start to have thoughts that say, wait a minute, what's happening? Thoughts often show up in questions. And there you go. Michelle puts it, what's wrong with me? And that starts to turn into a belief. If we have that thought often enough, it turns into a belief. Well, I'm doing what people tell me to do. I've been applying for 18 months now, for crying out loud. I've had 47 interviews. What's the deal? Must be me. That's the only solution. Okay? And then it turns into your identity. It must be me. I'm not good enough. I'm not going to get a job. I guess L&D was for me, but what am I now? Anyway, these questions come, right? Put a 3 in the chat if this is resonating with you. A 3 in the chat if this is resonating. Okay. Yeah, and I got shivers right now because it does. This is truth. Okay. Now you're like, all right, man, you brought me low. Let's go high. Let's do this. Well, what you do is you reverse the order of what I just did. If you can see my mouse, Michelle, can you see my mouse?
Yes, I can.
Okay, okay. So what I did is I took us from results to identity. And that's how most of us live because we were taught to do that. You get an A, and how you get an A is you do this. But to solve it, you reverse it. You start with your identity.
Mm.
Okay? Now let me give you an example. Even with a job, even with a job. Now I can't be super specific because I don't know, I don't have an example in front of me, but here's what we could do. Yes, Brandon says flip the pyramid. That's exactly right. If you start with your identity and align it with the result that you're looking for, then everything comes together and it is supported and sustainable. What does this mean? Okay, I want a job. Okay, great. Well, who am I? What's my identity? Well, I have a history in L&D. I care about people. I'm talented in explaining things in a powerful way. I like developing people. I'm exceptionally talented in the world of performance management, whatever it is, right? You start to discover what it is that you're good at, what you like to do. And if you can turn them into I am statements using some values, I am honest, I'm a hard worker, and so forth, and you align that with the result, that keeps you grounded. So when a job opening comes up and says, hey, there's a waitress, and you're like, yeah, I guess I could do that. And I'm not saying you can't be a waitress, right? It might be part of your plan that gets you into the job. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that as we align, we don't go bing, 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 that causes more and more doubt. But we know what we're looking for because we know who we are. Now, what happens is this. Actually, I'm going to do this, okay? I'm going to go back. I'm scrolling up to find another example here. Julie, can I pick on you because you're writing a book?
Absolutely.
Okay, here we go. Julie, when do you plan, and anyway, tell me this. When do you plan to have your book finished?
By April 15th, 2026.
Oh, nice. April 15th, specific date. I love it.
Excellent.
That's good. Now, how are you feeling about it today?
A little bit behind.
Okay, and that's fair because your result, now I'm going to take Julie through this, but everybody is going to listen and apply this to yourselves, right? So Julie's result is I want to write a book by April 15th, 2026. She's doing the work, but how did she feel? She's feeling behind. Okay, so let's discover what's going on here. So Julie, tell me some thoughts that are going through your head.
Um, like, why did I put myself in this position? What's so significant about that date? Do I really have to do it that way?
There
Are
you
you
go.
crazy?
These are great. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for being vulnerable. I'm sure most of us are like, oh yeah, I've had the same question for myself. So this turns into a belief. What is a belief that you sometimes have about your decision about the book?
Um, it's yeah, an ongoing belief that I'm gonna put all this work in and nobody's gonna want to read it anyway.
Mm,
It won't be of any value.
okay. And so now what does that tell you about yourself? Or what do you think that tells you about yourself?
I think it tells me that I'm stuck on that outward external pleasing.
Mhm.
Like, who am I really writing this book for? Am I writing it for other people, or really what's the purpose?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? Why would I even choose to do that? Is it really for so that everybody else will read it, or what else is going on?
Okay. All right, this is good. Julie, thank you. This is amazing. So what we're going to do, and this applies to everybody, is what we're going to do is flip the model. You can all do this with me. So Julie, you were saying things like, hey, I want to write my book by April 15th, 2026. I'm trying a bunch of things. I'm feeling uncertain. I have all these questions. I think, wow, maybe this isn't going to work. And all of a sudden you're thinking, why am I doing this in the first place?
Right.
Now, you don't have to have a perfect answer right now, but go with me here. Your result, April 15th, 2026, that's a great date. Nearly a year away. Awesome. So I want you to put yourself on that date today. Okay? So
Okay.
Julie, in your brain right now, it is April 15th, 2026. That's today. Is that clear?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, you have launched your book. You've launched your book. How cool. You met your deadline. You met your goal. You wrote the book. It's awesome. Tell me about Julie on this day.
Well, first of all, I'm smiling now, whereas before I was not. Especially when I said, "Am I crazy?"
Yeah.
So that's good. I feel like the shift is there, that I'm smiling. I feel a lot of relief and release, that
Hmm.
kind that comes with achieving something that I wanted to do.
There you go. Good, good. This is perfect, Julie. So now, to help everybody do it for yourselves, you can do exactly this. Put yourself on a date. It doesn't have to be perfect. Put yourself on a date of already having achieved your result. And then what you do is describe that person. So, Julie, I'm going to take you exactly through this in the correct order and just walk with me here. So, tell me a few words. You already did so, but I'm going to have you repeat it. Tell me a few words that describe the Julie of April 15th, 2026, who already launched her book.
So there's a lot of peace
Hmm.
and more calmness, not that kind of frenetic in my head. I gotta, just sort of, yeah, that's
Yes,
sort of calm.
good, good. So what Julie is highlighting for us, this is what it all comes down to. We all seek an emotion. See how she immediately went to, I feel peace? That's powerful. That's what we're all seeking for. But we only get it when we're clear about everything. So I just wanted to share that real quick. So Julie, the emotion's great. So let's work backwards. What thoughts does Julie of April 15th, 2026 have that lead to those emotions?
The thoughts are more aligned to me. Like, it doesn't matter if anybody reads this book. I'm
Hmm.
writing this for myself.
Good, good. So yes, describe that belief.
That belief is, um, that I just believe that I have value, whether or not it's validated
Yes, good. And
anywhere
that's
else.
key.
Yeah.
Julia, that is key, right? Because so many of us put our value on somebody else. Only if they
Mhm.
value me am I valued. But
Mm.
what you just said is, doesn't matter. I'm going to do it anyway. Why? Because I already know I'm valued, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So, so Julie, April 15th, 2026, you know you're valued. Therefore, your beliefs are, hey, if I write this book, this is going to be valuable to others. So the thoughts are, I'm going to continue to write my book. I put
Mm-hmm.
it out, it launched, this is amazing, so I'm going to continue to do so. And I feel peace, I feel confidence. True?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And therefore, what do you continue to do? Tell me about your behaviors.
Well, I continue to just be that with the book, whether or not people accept the invite to come to it.
Yes. And because you've done this the right way, it doesn't matter how many books you sell,
Absolutely.
and it doesn't matter how many reviews or testimonials you get. It does not affect your self-worth because you've done this the right way.
Absolutely.
There you go. Okay, Julie, thank you for doing that. Let me stop sharing my screen here. Everybody
Thank
give a
you.
virtual applause for her.
That was amazing. Actually, I don't think I ever would have thought of that reversal.
Mhm.
I love that. And
And
everybody,
this is,
the guidebook will has a small uh tidbit on doing that for yourself.
yes. So let me tell you how easy this is. You literally reverse the process, and you're not learning anything new. You saw that we all do it. Results, behavior, blah, 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 in the wrong direction. We all do it every single day. So all you have to do is reverse it. You already know how. You just watched an example and you saw the shift. In about 120 seconds, Julie went from feeling like, I don't know if this is worth it. Am I crazy? To all of a sudden, you know what? I'm going to write the book and I don't care what people think about it. Because I know I'm valued and I know this will bring value to the world. Julie, is that true? You made that shift in 120 seconds?
Yeah, it was pretty fast.
Yeah,
It was very fast. Thank you.
of course. So I'm showing you the power that applies to all of you. Now, I'm happy to do this with you if we want to contact afterwards. Otherwise, you can do it for yourself. Just say, okay, what's the model? And do it step by step so your brain understands what's happening. Do it in the order that you already do, and then reverse it. And you say, wow, I feel absolutely amazing. And guess what? Let me ask this final question to Julie. In the April 15th, 2026 version, who's already launched your book, tell me about any doubt Julie feels.
I feel like I'm scanning for it, searching for it. So it feels
Exactly.
like it's not there, you know? So if I
Oh,
have to go looking hard for it, it doesn't feel like it's there.
wow. How about that, huh? Everybody put a 4 in the chat if that is something you would like. 4 in the chat if that's something you would like. There you go. Well, the good news is you can all have it, and you've just been shown how to do it. All right, Michelle, what's next?
Well, you've listed, and that was one of them, but you've listed several reflection activities in there, and I don't even know, we've got 11 minutes left. I love all of them. So whichever one you would like to maybe, whichever one is maybe the most important, overcoming doubt right now.
Okay. So I just shared the foundation of how to do it. And then there's the day-to-day. So let's call it the upkeep. And Betty, hello. Good to see you.
Betty.
The upkeep, all right? I'm going to find another example real quick. So I'm going to scroll up to find those examples. Let's see.
You're not sharing at the moment.
That's fine. I'm scrolling up
Okay.
to the comments. Thank you, though.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Michelle, I'm going to pick on you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You didn't sound real confident there.
Hey, vulnerability brings the most growth, right? You ready for this?
Yeah.
100%.
So again, everybody in this room is going to appreciate you right now and say, wow, I'm thankful she's doing it so I don't have to. Or because everybody's going to get the benefit regardless. So you wrote successful.
Betty is thinking, wow, she needs this.
Hey, there you go.
That
Yeah,
way.
yeah. You wrote successful business of your own, right? Okay. What I'm teaching right now is the maintenance or the day-to-day upkeep of what I just taught with the Eden model. Because we already have habits of doing it the wrong way. We already have thought patterns that take us to the spot of I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And you have the entire pyramid that says, yep, you're right. And here's more proof that you're not good enough. So we have to do daily upkeep to flip it, to change those habits so that when we start with our identity and align it with our results, it doesn't crumble because we continue to put the right pieces on and we don't keep chipping away at it. Okay. So, Michelle, you said successful business of my own. Tell me a little bit more about that.
After not finding a job for almost a year, I decided maybe that was a sign and I should try this on my own. And it's kind of going well, but I imagine I'm terrible at coming up with, well, I'm great actually at coming up with all the negatives, all the obstacles that are in my way. And I have a really hard time getting past, but what about my 401k? What about insurance? What if I can't keep this up once this initial rush is over?
Yeah. Okay. Michelle, thank you. So we're going to pause. I'm talking to everybody because what just happened? In coaching, we focus on what people say, how they say it, because that tells you what's going on in the mind. And all of a sudden you can see how they see themselves, hence the title of my book. So Michelle, she focused on the fear, the things that might not or are not going well because of what has not gone well, right? So
Mhm.
that shows up in the emotion of fear. So when she's looking towards this successful business of my own, Michelle, share it for everybody. How do we feel? How do you feel?
I'm scared, like I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, there you go. And then another word is doubt, right? Because we're talking
Right.
about that theme. Now, we flip, okay? There's always positives to be found, and this is not toxic positivity. It's not pretending everything's fine. It is doing things in the right way so that you can get the result you want that aligns with who you are. All right. So, with the language that you used, I'm going to ask you to do it and then I can help you. Try flipping some of that language to things that are working, can work, or are more positive.
I can land projects on my own merit without relying on other people.
There you go. That's a belief. Powerful belief. And Michelle, if you want to write that down, I literally have 7 Post-its on my monitors right now because I do this. I need it. If you wrote that down as a belief and you read that to yourself out loud every single day, it would make a huge difference. Because I know that the opposite, disempowering belief, is something that is often said in your mind. You can't get it on your own, and it won't work. But you just said, no, it will. So the key is here, because Michelle, everybody in the chat, everybody who believes Michelle can be successful and believes in Michelle, put a yes in the chat. Put a yes in the chat with exclamation marks. And even if you want to come off mute and say, yes, we believe in you, Michelle, you can do that.
Yeah.
Yes,
There
we
you go,
will.
Betty. That's what I'm talking
Yes.
about. This is true. And these people are not faking it, okay? Some put it in all caps with 6 exclamation marks, okay? So they have the belief, and we know this, but we just have to hear it and we have to have tools and how to change it because we know that we are our worst critic, right? High achievers. We talked about this. So, Michelle, the voice and the belief that you get to choose to believe is the one you write down and tell yourself. Okay? And as you change that language, I don't know what your result will look like, but I can tell who you will be. I can tell that you have a bigger smile on than you did 30 seconds ago when I first asked you about successful business. True?
True.
Yes. So now tell me how you're feeling.
Um, Probably shouldn't use this word, but a little validated.
There you go. And there's nothing wrong with using that word. We all need it. But that's the shift. Everybody here, and I could tell you story after story after story, and you can read some in my book. But it's a very small shift in what we say that makes all of the difference. And most of the time, everybody on this call, you're probably like, well, I don't say it. Well, you think it. And so we're saying it to ourselves inside the realm of our own mind. If we can change that, and we can change it, it makes all the difference. You saw Michelle's face and you heard her emotions and how they changed. Her belief, her literal belief, changed because I asked her to change how she talked. The same thing can happen to all of you. So as you're thinking, I'll give you a specific assignment here. As you're thinking, okay, I have the Eden model, that's cool. He taught me to go through it. I'm literally going to go through it step by step. And I have some worksheets I can share that take you through it step by step. I want you to write those things down and I want you to practice reversing it. And as you do, I just want you to choose one phrase that you're going to say to yourself every day that is more empowering, that is a more positive belief. It's literally the difference. What you believe, you achieve. It's what it is. And what you believe about yourself is how you show up. So if we can start with the identity, who we truly are, and if you don't know, do what Julie did and say, you know what, April 15th, this is what I've done, this is who I am. Bam, and live it today. Because the brain doesn't know the difference of something vividly imagined or reality. We saw that Julie felt peace, calm, confidence right now, even though her book doesn't launch until April 15th. We saw that. And the same thing can happen to all of you. All right, we're wrapping up.
I,
Go ahead.
yeah, we are. And I really wish we weren't because this is really confidence building. And I thank you for that because I know a lot of us are struggling right now between what's going on in the world and what's going on with our jobs and things at home. And so thank you. You're always so positive. Um, Everyone,
Amazing.
I put the link to Ben's book in the chat, as well as our guidebook. And I believe we have all of your email addresses. So I will also send out the guidebook if you didn't have a chance to download it. Ben, I honestly can't thank you enough. This is a great way to start off the weekend.
Thank you.
If everybody wants to give Ben a little virtual round of applause. I'm happy now.
We put Ben's contact info in the chat too, because that could be, or maybe in the guidebook, I'm not sure, but great.
It
Thank you
is
so
in
much.
the guidebook, but yeah, we'll pop in the LinkedIn
His
here.
Instagram and LinkedIn links are in the book, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you,
can I
Ben.
share one last thing?
Yes, sure
Yes.
thing.
Do reach out if you'd like. Okay, don't go through this alone. I know we've been trying to do that. I can speak from experience. It's easy to do it alone. Know that you can shift your emotions in an instant, like we did twice or more today. So you can do that. And when you feel differently, you act differently. When you act differently, you get different results. But to do that sustainably, you start with who you are. So I'm reminding you that you are good. You are good enough. I don't know what results you will get, but guess what? If you do it the right way, the results you get will be the right ones for you. And I know that with a fact.
Love that.
I love
Yeah.
that.
That's a great way to go into the weekend. Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you, Michelle, for moderating. Great stuff.
Thank
And
you,
thank you
everyone
everyone
who
for joining.
came.
Yes.
Yeah, and we will have the link will go up on our the recording will go up on our L&D Cares YouTube, and I'll publish all that and probably a wrap-up post on LinkedIn. So Ben, thank you again. Thank you,
My
everybody.
pleasure.
Thank
Nice
you,
to meet
everyone.
everyone.
Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend, Ben. Thank you.